Hello, genealogists. It's Craig, and this is Just Genealogy, and this is Book Sunday, my favorite day of the week. And we actually have new books here at Heritage Books for me to bring to your attention today. The first one is The Streets of Elizabeth, New Jersey, an encyclopedia of Elizabethtown, New Jersey, street names and origins. I don't think we've ever done a book like this before. It is about as cool as it can get. You know, I don't know about you, but driving down the road and looking at street signs and wondering, okay, was that because of Neil Armstrong? George Armstrong? George Armstrong was a captain of a hockey team in Toronto, the Maple Leafs, when I was a kid. Was it George Armstrong? I don't know what other George Armstrong there is, but that's the one that came to mind. So, street names get named after, was Long Street named after the general, or was Long Street named after the fact it's a long street? You just don't know these kinds of things. I spent, it's funny, but when I'm looking at Wikipedia and they tell me in Wikipedia what a county is named for or what a town is named for, it always makes me happy to see that. So now I have a book about all the streets of Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I actually grew up isn't the right word. After I knew about George Armstrong, the captain of that Maple Leaf hockey team from Toronto, I moved to Maplewood, New Jersey, which is not far from Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I have peeps from Scotch Plains Baptist Church up in that area. I think that's close enough for government work, but not Elizabeth. We actually have other books on Elizabeth, like Union soldiers from Elizabeth during the Civil War, for example. That one comes to mind. And this also talks about some of the people who live there. I actually don't have much opportunity to meet a lot of my authors. I have 2,000 of them plus, and I probably have met maybe 200 over time, maybe 300 at the most, although I haven't been counting them. So I went to a reunion in Neptune, New Jersey, a reunion dinner kind of thing. Not really a class reunion, but a let's get together and have fun kind of thing. And he knew I was going to be there, so he showed up. So I got to meet him. So The Streets of Elizabeth, New Jersey. Great little book if you're interested in northern New Jersey. Now another book that we're just bringing out, it's been out of print for several decades, Tidewater Tales, which has to do with Essex County, Virginia. And it talks, it's by Henry Wise Garnett, Esquire. And chapters include Essex County Geography and Agriculture, Essex from 1608 to 1876. A Trip on the Tidewater Trail. Educational upright fragments of history from the Dunsville, Bestland, and the Road to Essex Mill. Center Cross, Dumbrook, Paul's Crossroads, the Courtroom in Tappahannock, Virginia. It's kind of actually hard to read when the contrast is like this. But anyway, Margaret's School at Tappahannock, The Rise of Chinkapin. I think I want to go read that one. Sketches include Major Bob, All for Fun, Agriculture in the Public Schools, A History of the Virginia Madstones, an address upon the death of President McKinley, and many, many more. This was brought to us through the efforts of Wesley Pippinger, and I'm very thankful that we're able to provide it. The last book he brought to us like this was The History of Rappahannock, about 6 months ago. Excuse me. But always glad to find books that deal with history from the perspective of the individual living there, rather than history from the perspective of a bunch of people who come into a county, collect subscribers, and collect family stuff, like a typical mug book. So this isn't like a typical mug book, because this is a person on the ground, knowledgeable about the county, that kind of thing. Then for some reason that escapes me, really not sure, we did Probate Records of the Province of New Hampshire, Volume 2, 1718 to 1740, State Papers Series, Volume 32, by Henry Harrison Metcalf, editor of the State Papers, and his assistant Otis Grant Hammond. It's a thick one. I'm going to have to hunt up Volume 1, because I don't know where Volume 1 is, but this is full of New Hampshire wills. It's got a couple of plats in it. Just plats. So, and I've already used it once with somebody for a Merrill family up in New Hampshire. It didn't work out, but hey, had it to try. Then another book by Wesley Pippinger on Essex County, Virginia, Consolidated Wills and Fiduciary Accounts, etc., 1692 to 1903. Now, we have a lot of stuff on Essex County relating to wills, either whether they be the state level index that Pippinger did and some abstracts and that kind of stuff that Pippinger also did. So, as you may be aware, he's previously published similar data to this for a portion of the overall period covered here in Essex County, Virginia, will abstracts 1751 to 1842, and a state records index 1751 to 1799, and then of course his index to Virginia estates 1800 to 1865, volume 10, which is almost out of print. Of those years, the difference here is content and format. The original index record replicated here and used as the initial base of data is called Index to Wills and Fiduciary Accounts 1717 to 1901. In this work, that base index has been expanded to include wills and administrations from county formation in 1692 through 1716, and to make complete run of entries from 1692 to 1903. The compiler also added the name of a spouse if mentioned in a will, the name of persons bonded in a bond, the name of the administrator or executor for an account or sale, and has adjusted dates between January and March before 1753 to allow for the calendar change. Entries are arranged alphabetically by surname, and they include columns of information, date of instrument, meaning the date it was created, date of recordation, meaning the date it was recorded, name, full name with additional information for some entries, instrument meaning the type of document, and the book and page, or the source of the material. So that's Essex County, Virginia, Consolidated Index to Wills and Fiduciary Accounts. Then we have from Robert J. Driver Jr., a new book on Confederates of Prince Edward County, Virginia, and the deaths in Farmville Hospital, 1862 to 1865. So this one took a while to put together. He's done 2 volumes on Augusta County. He's done 2 volumes, one on the 1st and 2nd Maryland Infantry Confederate and the 1st and 2nd Maryland Cavalry Confederate. And he's also done one on signalmen and sailors from Maryland and Virginia, if my mind is working properly. So he's also did some of the H.E. Howard series of books, the Virginia roster series. He did some of those before he ever came to Heritage Books. I think the first book I ever did for him was the 1st and 2nd Infantry, and he'd already done the Cavalry book, and he brought it to us for us to distribute for him. So Confederates of Prince Edward County, there's really not that much out there on Prince Edward County, so anything that you can get to is useful. So to give you some idea of the level of detail, Richard W. Price, 3rd Sergeant, Company D, 18th Virginia Infantry, enlisted 4/21/61, discharged 6/13/62 by reason of being Justice of the Peace. Well, under conscription, a Justice of the Peace was not eligible to be conscripted. They were exempted. So I guess he got out because he would have been exempted by the draft. Age 40, farmer, 5'11", blue eyes, dark hair, fair complexion. So that's the level of detail that you're going to enter. There's also some information in here of individuals who are in the Confederate Navy who were from Prince Edward County. And then finally today, we have the next one in the series of Frederick County, Maryland land records, abstracts, 1792 to 1795, Lieber WR11 through WR13. You might wonder why, when you look at Maryland land record abstracts, why they, or wills even, or whatever, they have these various, usually 2 letters, and they, they'll go along as 2 letters, then all of a sudden it'll change to another 2 letters, and then it'll go along for a while, and all of a sudden it'll change to another 2 letters, and you might wonder what's going on. Well, I can tell you that the WR in this, WR11 and WR13, stand for William Ritchie, the clerk of the Frederick County Court, and basically these are the 11th, 12th, and 13th land record abstracts of his administration, the administration of William Ritchie. There's not much to say about this except that she does a very good job of abstracting land records. She has plenty of experience. We have land records from Pat Anderson for both Frederick County, Maryland, and for Montgomery County, Maryland. So those are the new titles that are at Heritage Books this week. We actually have added a lot of others from other publishers, and it's kind of tough to track those down. If there's a specific county that you would like me to talk about, and what books I would have in my library if I were researching that county, I would be happy to put that together. I've thought about doing it for Loudoun County, but the problem is with Loudoun County in Virginia is that I have like 90 books on Loudoun County, Virginia, and who has 2 hours to talk about all the books from Loudoun County? So if we do that, we might have to break it up into land records, probate records, court records, that kind of thing. I mean, I've written some of the books along with a co-author on Loudoun County, like Loudoun County equity suits or chancery suits or something like that. Anyway, another day and another Book Sunday. I really do enjoy Book Sunday because it gives me the opportunity to touch new books, because I generally don't get to see them until they're actually books. Had a disappointment this week. We've got a rather thick set of books coming out on Frederick County, Maryland, and they just were set up wrong, and I'm looking forward to somehow soon being able to get those fixed. Page numbering versus pagination was the problem. However, there is a 4th volume of that set that is an index to the Frederick County docket, and that is available on the website. So this is Craig. This is Just Genealogy, another Book Sunday. Please subscribe if you haven't. I got my first dislike, and I'm hoping it was just somebody who hit something inadvertently and that they really didn't dislike me talking about mastering genealogical documentation. So go look at the Mastering Genealogical Documentation and see if you like it. Of course, if you don't, you're welcome to dislike it, but after 170 some odd videos, that was my first dislike, so it hurt. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to assume that it was a mistake, because that's the easiest thing to do, so that I can live with myself. Y'all have a good time. I am.